Hello friends, this is Worm, and it's Monday, which means it's time for another episode of Exotic Recrafting, the series where we take a look at weak, underused, or straight up bad exotics in Destiny 2, talk about how we can make them better, and today I have Devil's Ruin on the menu for us. Now, Devil's Ruin is a solar 300 round per minute sidearm that has the exotic perk Close the Gap, variable trigger, press and release to fire individual shots, hold to charge up a high-powered stunning laser, strong against unstoppable champions. Its second perk is Pyrogenesis. Fully charging the laser refills the magazine from reserves. Now, this weapon has not got a lot of love since it came to the game. There was a brief period of time where you could put on Mechaneer Strict Sleeves on the Hunter and have infinite ammo as long as you could get kills with the laser, which was a pretty fun, but at the same time, it didn't last for too very long. And of course, they changed Mechaneer Strict Sleeves, so now you cannot do that. And since that change, it just has fallen by the wayside. And really, it's such a cool weapon, I think that it deserves a little bit of love. So, in typical fashion, we're going to talk about the stat changes that we can make to the weapon, then we'll talk about some catalysts we can add to the weapon, then finally we're going to talk about some full reworks to the weapon to make it better. Now, starting off with some stat changes, I think the stats are actually pretty good around the board. The main thing I think that could really benefit the weapon is, of course, increasing that magazine. It has a 15 round magazine, and I feel like you could increase it to 20 without really busting the weapon. This weapon strikes me as a hard-hitting, quick burst DPS primary weapon. And of course, because it is a primary weapon, you can't overdo it. You don't want to go too much. So increasing by just 5 rounds, I think, could add a lot to it, but it wouldn't necessarily make it compete with special weapons and stuff like that. It would be more of a specialty weapon to handle maybe champions and stuff like that. Now, another thing that is kind of in lines of the stats, I think, is with the unstoppable stunning capabilities. This weapon, you have to charge up the laser to get the unstoppable champion stagger, which is pretty okay, except for the fact that most of the time, by the time the champion is taking full damage, you're already out of ammo. So like half, maybe even 2/3 of the magazine goes to actually stunning the unstoppable champion, and then by the time it's able to receive full damage, you only got about 5 shots left in the magazine. So I think that changing the weapon so that it can just intrinsically stun unstoppable champions no matter what would be terrific. I mean, you take the weapon, you shoot an unstoppable champion with its standard fire mode, and then it staggers that unstoppable. Then you can unleash the laser beam to get the full damage out of the laser. And on top of that, I would add maybe the ability to reload the weapon, automatically when you stun a champion. I think that could also go a long way for this weapon. So you charge the laser, you hit the champion, and as soon as it staggers, it reloads the weapon so you can continuously fire that laser beam until you're out of ammo. But that's going to be it for the stat changes. Now I'm going to look at some some catalysts that could potentially make this weapon much better. Starting off, one of the things that just fits into this weapon perfectly is Vorpal. Having Vorpal on as a perk on this would increase damage by 20% against bosses, mini bosses, and vehicles. I think that would be a great option because this is, like you said, this is a burst damage style weapon. You use this against champions. It does have unlimited ammo, so we don't want to go too much overboard, so it's outdoing specials, but I think that having Vorpal would be tremendous. And on the lines of Vorpal, we could also go crazy and put Deconstruct as well, and maybe you could interchange those out. Instead of having Vorpal and Deconstruct, you have Vorpal or Deconstruct. But I think that Deconstruct would be a really fun option, so that if you're fighting something like a brig, you just unload that laser and it just continuously shoots until that brig is dead. I think that would be such a fun, such a niche thing to add to the weapon. I think if Bungie were to go the route of adding Deconstruct, I don't know if you'd want to add Vorpal as well, because that would probably be just a ridiculous amount of damage, quite frankly. But I think that Deconstruct would be a really fun perk to have on Devil's Ruin, and that could be added through a catalyst. Now, finally, I want to talk about a complete rework to the weapon. And in terms of a weapon rework, I think that Devil's Ruin would really benefit from a cryosthesia treatment, where instead of holding the trigger, you actually have to activate the laser beam fire mode. This would pose some issues with the perk synergy on this weapon, so let's fix that. So instead of holding the trigger to fire the laser beam, you just click and hold your reload button to activate the laser beam, then you can fire it continuously. I think that Pyrogenesis could be changed so that instead of just fully charging the laser refills the magazine from reserves, you could change Pyrogenesis so that kills before activating the Close the Gap perk will increase the laser beam's damage. And I don't think you'd have to go crazy on the damage. Again, maybe just increasing it by a maximum of 20%, but it would tremendously help the weapon. If Bungie were to add a catalyst that adds like a perk like Vorpal or Deconstruction, you might even lower that number a little bit. Again, we don't want this weapon to just melt servitors and brigs and other vehicles just instantly without ever having to reload, but that is an option that I could see happening. See Devil's Ruin having some potential with. But with that being said, those are my changes to Devil's Ruin. I want to hear your thoughts. Tell me those down in the comments. How would you change Devil's Ruin to make it more viable in content? Of course, if you liked today's video, do me a favor, drop a like, helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe for more daily Destiny content, conversations, debates, discussions, all that good stuff. And do me one more favor, watch the videos you see here on the end screen, because for whatever reason, YouTube thinks you'll like them. Guys, I'll see y'all next time. Bye for now.